Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 539, recorded on Saturday, November 17th. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have returning to the show, Bandvp. Welcome back. Don't forget the mute button. Uh-oh. We may have Bandvp. We also have Voodu.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
This will be... you're really excited about this topic.
I love this topic.
So excited, in fact, that you brought a friend, Nimvind.
I did.
Salutations.
Welcome, sir. So we'll get into the topic in a little bit here, but so our screenshot of the week. This is a fun one. All right, here we go. Maurice the mundane mini mimic makes merry when meeting motionless mimic mates. Hey, that's pretty good. That's a lot of alliteration there. This is the 391st screenshot of the week. Good screenshot. The description is quite impressive, though. Well done. So thanks to Yevils for sending that in. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website, DDOCast.com. And DDOCast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be... good question. Probably next weekend, but holidays and stuff. If you are outside the U.S., this Thursday is Thanksgiving, so that good to know, just kind of in general, because that will probably impact a few things like sending some games processes, and because they're not going to really be working on Thanksgiving. And I haven't seen anything about in-game support being suppressed for the week, but that's probably going to happen. Let's see. In any case, next show will probably be next Saturday or Friday, something like that, but we'll figure it out. You can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOCast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, so we've got a couple fun things to talk about. Update 41 hit Lamannia for the preview for the first time, so we'll kind of talk about some of that. A lot of it is stuff we already kind of knew about. We'll kind of get into some of the details we haven't. We've got a little bit of community news, and then our topic today, we're going to be kicking off a bigger picture, or a bigger topic. We're going to kind of crunch it down into bite-sized parts a little bit. We're going to be talking about past life prioritization. So what do we mean by that? Good question. Basically, we're going to try to help give you a roadmap for getting your past lives. When do you want to get what past life? That kind of an ordering of sorts, and we'll give you kind of some thoughts and tips about how to do that. But today we're going to kind of stay bigger picture. So we're going to be we're not going to get too nitty gritty into the individual ones, but we're going to kind of give you the start of a roadmap to kind of figure out what you want to do in order to make all this work. So that makes sense for everybody, right?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yep. I like it.
So we'll start with game news. Update 41 hit Lamannia. It was supposed to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They had a blocker, as they call it, come up, and it didn't come up until Wednesday, so it was up Wednesday to Friday. So a little bit less time than it was, but so let's go through the release notes briefly. Let's see. The new quest is going to be Lost at Sea. A ship carrying important cargo has sunk off the coast of Stormreach, and you've been hired to assist a Warforged salvage company recover the cargo and to deal with any threats that arise. Your group will dive down to find the wreckage and search for clues. There'll be a level 15 quest on Heroic, level 32 on Legendary. So that one's been... let's see.
I think it was a couple Wednesday live streams ago. They kind of hinted that the Easter egg in this quest is that the ship is actually from Sharn.
I think I remember hearing that.
There's the tie-in.
Yeah. So that'll be kind of fun. Classes. So there's a bunch of class changes coming. The first is Bard songs. We've talked about that on the show, but if there's anything you guys want to say about Bard songs, feel free to jump in there.
Well, I personally love playing a Bard, and the new updates give Bards a lot more of a, during Heroics and even at Endgame, a it gives more assistance towards the party because there's like buffs 24/7 going on and stuff like the War Chanter tree, including the Spellsinger tree as well. You get these awesome boosts to help everyone else within the party to complete the quest.
And
As a
the one thing I've noticed since we kind of started talking about this, my monk has taken Mass Frog as a feat, and my monk, like even with the monks don't get any spell points, obviously, and so with my destiny and the destiny that I'm usually in an augment, he's only got like 300 spell points, less than 300 spell points, which is not a lot of frogs, which is sad because frogging is fun. But I'm kind of excited that bards will just sing me. I don't have to necessarily ask the bard for a spell song, a spell point song on my monk, because that would be a little weird. Like, why do you need that? Well, I can mass frog. So, like, well, frogging is great. So, can I just have the spell? Like, you don't have to go through that rigmarole. They're just gonna, like, if they give me, they'll probably just give me the song, all the songs, right? So.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about it. I'm really curious to see what the range looks like in gameplay, because like I love melee bards and I also enjoy playing Spellsinger, but usually you stand at different places during a conflict, or as each type of bard. Like I don't really see a Spellsinger being an up in front, but then again, War Chanters and Swashbucklers, their buffs, of course, if it's a close range situation, all the melees are going to get it in the raid because you're right there DPSing alongside with them. So it'd be interesting to see where the placement changes when it's the whole area of effect things and then the single target songs. It's pretty
That
cool.
is something I'm concerned about. Is will the range that's constantly pulsing, is that going to be as big as the normal song range is now? Because if it's smaller, that's going to be kind of a bummer,
They did talk about Littlebell did talk about the range, and she said it should be okay. But yeah, it'll be one of those things we'll have to play with, right? By the way, arias were changed. I think are going to be changed to ballad, as opposed. That's the kind of the aura pulse thing that's going out all the time. So
rock ballad.
I have to admit that I've read the release notes about how the bard songs are changing, and some of it sounds really cool, but after having read through it a couple times, like I'm a little bit confused as to like which songs are going to be single target, which are
right?
going to be just going on all the time, which are going to be so it's hard to give an opinion on all of it, because it's the way that it was written, it just was a little bit confusing to me. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I love playing my Spellsinger bard. I don't get to play it as much as I'd like to, because I often find myself having to play a more tanky tune, but
I know your pain.
yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I have that problem, not with my bard specifically, but we're running Killing Time. It seems like every other time if my timer's not on tank, I'm running tank. So, yeah, it was fun. Also even as someone who plays a Spellsinger Swashbuckly bard, it's like I can turn on epic defensive fighting and then go in and tangle a little bit. So yeah, it'll be fun to see all this go. Eldritch Knight. The Eldritch Knight has been improved. We knew this was going to happen, but we got more of the details. The cores mostly kind of stayed the same. The difference being that you get. Actually, I'm not even sure what specifically the differences are, but I think you get hit points, which might not be the same as it was. Spell Sword is now in Core 2, so that's where you get to charge your weapon. It also gives your attacks Ghost Touch. It looks like you just get to add it to your weapon. It's not even. It used to be there was like a cleave attack that cost spell points. Now it's just you can stick it on your weapon.
Oh, well, what I've understand is that before the cores, after the first one, was that there's an enchantment, like you can do acid sword, electric sword, and all that. They're just moving that all to the second core, and then so that will leave them a diversity for the other cores, which are adding some hit points there. And I believe there's also some hit points you could take through enhancements. Not much. It's mostly in the cores, which provides you a little bit more sturdiness when you're using these cool enchantments. The cleave attack was actually an enhancement that you can take later
It
on
used
in
to be
the
part
tree.
of the core tree. I pulled it up because that does make more sense. But so it
Oh.
used to the first tier mostly stays the same. The cleave attack looks like it's basically the same, but you now gain proficiency with simple weapons, and every core ability in the night tree gets you another 10 hit points. So that's new. You lose the every point spent. It looks like you're losing the every point spent is giving you half a universal spell power though. So, and then like you were saying, each of the cores you could pick one of the spell swords. Now you can just have the ball at tier 2. As well as you get proficiency with light armor and martial weapons at core 2 as well. So that's kind of nice. As well as 1% double strike, 10 universal spell power. And core 3, your melee weapons are considered spellcasting implements in your hands. You gain the quick draw feat. The reason why quick draw is kind of nice is because it lets you switch between casting spells and attacking faster. You get minus 15% arcane spell failure, 1% double strike, and 10 universal spell power. Core 4, you gain the benefits of deflect arrows, knocking aside one incoming projectile every 6 seconds. You get minus 28% arcane spell failure, 6 resistance to the elements, and 10 universal spell power. Core 5, you get 5% stacking incorporality, and your deflect arrows triggers every 2 seconds instead of 6. You get another percent of double strike and plus 10 universal spell power. So it looks like they're kind of. It used to be you get force spell power, so now you're getting universal spell power, which I think kind of balances out the spell power you're for spending points. And then
Also helps your elemental sword damage, doesn't it?
Yes. Because the elemental swords is very similar to the arcane archer stuff, where it scales with spell power. It's a little different though, because you just get an additional D6 every 3 wizard or sorcerer levels, as opposed to with arcane archer you have to spend action points to increase the dice, but to do so you don't get a different element. So, let's see, the last core. I think that one's basically the power charge. The Eldritch Power is a little different. So now the Eldritch Power will be plus 10% melee damage, plus 4d6 spell sword dice, plus 3d4 force damage on hit, plus 25 universal spell power, plus 15 PRR, and plus 40 MRR. And then you also get to choose between plus 2 intelligence or charisma, it looks like, and then be plus 2 constitution, a spell sword die, and 10 universal spell power. There was I remember seeing a question that someone was asking, why are you giving me plus 40 MRR? Because if I'm in robes, I only get a cap at 50 MRR. Well, that's true, but some people can wear armor, so that's why you can get more MRR here. Also, the 10% melee damage, that's a pretty rare thing, so keep that in mind. They don't typically do percent to damage, but they felt that having to be level 20 levels in sorcerer or wizard and being a melee, this kind of fit pretty well. So those are the cores. The other ones, so tier 1, mage armor is unchanged, toughness is unchanged, battle mage is unchanged. The only thing that's changed tier 1 is arcane siphon, which is a melee attack on hit. So it does 1, 2, 3 weapon damage. On hit, you gain up to 30 universal spell power for 20 seconds. Has a 12-second cooldown. Let's see. At tier 2, the improved shield. I think that looks like it's mostly the same to me. But it doesn't say that it's unchanged. It looks the same. I think they're changing it. They're typing the bonuses exceptional. Might be the change, but Mystic Wards gives you plus 3, 6, 10 magical resistance rating, so it's kind of nice. There's a spell power boost in here now, and then shield training, and 1 scroll mastery unchanged. Tier 3, Arcane Barrier is now 1 rank instead of 3, so that's kind of nice. When your hit points drop below 50% of maximum, you immediately get an Arcane Barrier. Reduces all incoming damage by 25% for 20 seconds. Can trigger only once every 90 seconds. So they basically just gave you the 3rd tier for 1 point. Yay. Eldritch Accuracy, you get Intelligence or Charisma to hit with weapons and shield bashes. That's kind of nice. Synergetic magic. This is fun. So when you have Action Boost Spell Power active, you also get the benefits of Action Power or Action Boost Power. So that's bonuses to melee and range power. So it's kind of fun.
That's huge.
Yeah, that's a lot of. I like how they're synergizing that. Right, that's kind of a fun way to do it. You get critical hit masteries. That's +3 to confirm critical hits and critical hit damage. The ability score is unchanged. Knight's Transformation is a toggle. When this is turned on, all your spells and SLAs that are affected by meta magic have their range reduced to touch range. You cannot enable the large meta magic while it's active. You gain +3 spell power and +3 spell critical damage. Your base attack bonus equals your character level. So there was a question about why they kind of went this direction. They actually replaced the constant Tensor's Transformation, the permanent Tensor's Transformation, with this. There's actually in Tier 5, there's an improved one which gives you +1 competence bonus to critical multiplier with melee weapons. The reason they went this direction, they kind of wanted to, it kind of fits nicely with the epic defensive fighting feat, but they also felt that the point of this tree is to be casting and fighting and using that in conjunction with each other. They felt that improved Tensor's Transformation, Tensor's Transformation penalizes your spellcasting. They didn't want to do that. So they kind of went with this route instead. Kind of the idea here. There's an improved offhand multi-selector in Tier 4. Shield striking, which is unchanged, or you can use orbs. So you get +3 to saving throws and +10 to spell power while holding an orb. Interesting choice, but I'm guessing most people are going to go with the shield. Force's Point. When you cast a spell, you gain a stack of Force's Point, which is +1 to hit and damage. It stacks up to 5 times. When you hit with a melee weapon, you get a stack of Force's Point Magical, which is +2 universal spell power, stacks up to 10 times. Stacks last for 10 seconds each. You may only gain each effect once per second. Talk about that a little bit more in a minute. Armored Arcana, you gain proficiency in medium armor and suffer no spell failure from light or medium armor. So that's in there. Tier 4. Tier 5, we talked about the improved transformation. There's also a multi-selector that gives you either +2 evocation DCs and conjuration DCs, or +2 to enchantment DCs and +4 spell pen. So you can pick which one of those you want while Knight's Transformation is active. Which seems a little weird, right? Because your spell range is touch at that point. So you know.
I feel the +4 spell pen is huge because like usually you have to work really hard in action points for just 3.
Yeah, this is a big deal for sure. Definitely, there's you can cast spells at touch. It's totally fine doing that too. So, let's see. Force's Edge. When you cast a spell, you gain +1 competence bonus to critical threat range and for 12 seconds. When you make a melee attack, you get 5% spell critical chance for 12 seconds. You can get Radiant Force Field as a spell-like ability with 3-minute cooldown. So that's kind of fun. An Eldritch Tempest. Activate to perform a spinning melee attack, dealing weapon damage +5 weapon to all nearby enemies and knocking them prone for 1 second. Any foes struck by Eldritch Tempest, your weapon also releases an explosion of magical force, dealing additional 1d6 force damage per character level to all nearby enemies. Woohoo! It's now 1 action point per rank. That may have actually been the change. There was also a question about this one. The knock prone is only 1 second. People are like, well, only 1 second? Well, it has no save, so that's why it's only 1 second. If it was longer, that would be a little. Steel Star thing actually said that they could do a longer one, but then they need to give it a save, and they didn't want to give it a save because then it makes people feel like they have to get save DC gear, like tactics gear, which might be a little too much to ask of a character that's going for this build type. So That's why that like that. There you go. Anyone want to throw in some thoughts about the Eldritch Knight tree here?
I feel like the orb thing, like every time something there's like a melee orb thing, I keep on thinking of the purple Dragon Knight shield from Haunted Halls. When you upgrade it, it gives you an orb bonus. So I'm curious about that. Also, I feel like since it's a Sork and a wizard tree, that they kind of give you leeway to splash like 6 levels of Swashbuckler or so, Bard Swashbuckler with a Sork to kind of get your charisma to damage from there. Or no, it's charisma to hit actually. My bad. And then like get that swashing with orb thing going on.
You can get charisma to hit in this tree at tier 3. You get to choose intelligence or charisma to hit with weapons and shields. So
I'm wondering how many folks that are going to use this tree will actually go with heavy armor instead, because I know here you can get medium armor proficiency and no arcane spell failure. But I know like when I was playing Voodu before Warlock came out, as a sorcerer, I was using heavy armor back then because of the big PRR bonuses, and it wasn't hard for me to get no arcane spell failure on that.
I'm after you.
Somebody go.
I feel that the heavy armor might be a thing because they don't really give you an incentive for like you. It's not like certain trees where like if you wear medium armor you get +8 to Constitution. No, like it's just like you can use it. So I feel like heavy armor would be a super huge option for a lot of people who would try to use this.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff going on here, so it'll be interesting to see what people kind of come up with. See, other stuff. Classes, Renegade Master Makers, Kinetic Discharge can now be used while moving. Shielding Construct and Warning Construct now require the right amount of Artificer levels as well. Epic Destinies, Shadow Dancer's Meld into Darkness is now much less likely to be interrupted. That's great. If you're not familiar with Meld, it gives you for, I think, like 12 seconds or something like that, like 100% dodge, which is really awesome. Really good ability there. But it's a little finicky, some. Let's see. Raid loot changes. We've kind of talked about this, so I'm going to kind of gloss over some of this. The Legendary Souls have been renamed to Threads of Fate. They will appear in end chests at Cat raids regardless of tier. They can also be made out of raid runes. They are bound to account. So we talked about tome standardization and the tiers. So Threads of Fate are currently used for several distinct purposes. There's a new filigree set. We'll talk about that. There's new filigrees, I should say. You can use them to add mythic bonuses to the White Plume Mountain raid level items. So this would be Wave, Whelm, Black Razor, Frost Razor, Angdrelv, as well as alternate slot variants. It allows you to reacquire raid loot that's already been earned to update it to higher levels. Sparks of Memory, which you can also find in White Plume Mountain, but this is, I guess, an alternate way of finding those. That's kind of neat. And unique cosmetics. And we'll go into that in a little bit more detail. I guess I'll just recap real quick. The tomes, they're going to kind of standardize. There's 3 tiers of raids. Tier 1 raids will have +6 tomes. Tier 2 will be +7. Tier 3 will be +8. And +1 racial action point tomes. So they're going to kind of standardize that and the drop rates and stuff like that. Also, this dropped late last night. It was not put anywhere, including the notes, but Phlogiston's from Temple of Deathworm and Fire on Thunder Peaks are now bound to account with Update 41. And there was much rejoicing. So, and I believe that will be retroactive. So if you have Phlogiston's on some characters that you don't really care about, you can now change them to other characters and complete your Thunder Forge weapons. Let's see, new scrolls are now available based on new spells, which we'll talk about in a second. Collectibles now sort themselves based on tier and rarity in your red collectibles bag.
That's cool.
Is it? I don't know if I care. I just search for it. I dump my collectibles into my crafting storage, and then I search for them. That's how I find collectibles.
I think it's going to be really good for newer players.
That kind of makes sense, I think. Let's see. Mysterious remnants no longer ask if they'd like to be picked up when you loot them in chests. That's kind of handy since you can't pass them. Siberia's dragon shards now contain their feat respec levels in their tooltips. Thank you, Linabelle, for that one. That's one that I actually sent. She was asking me for ideas for some stuff, I think, and I had to figure. I rolled up a new character and then had to do a feat respec for some reason, and I was trying to figure out which one I needed. Right, because it doesn't tell you, and it's kind of not very intuitive. So that will help new players a lot.
Before, I would just hit up the DDO store, and there's like, I don't know, there was this vague part in there. I forgot how I got there that says feed exchange, and it just offers you the one that you need for your.
That's how I did it too.
That's pretty clever. I'd never thought about that. Well, now it'll actually tell you what it is, right? So that'll help.
That's a nice tool tip.
Yeah. Let's see. New wizard and sorcerer spells are now available at level 1. Firebolt, Freezing Bolt, Acid Bolt, and Electric Bolt. Each fires a single target bolt that does 1d6 plus 2 damage of the appropriate element per caster level to a maximum caster level of 10. I'm going to hazard a guess that you can increase the caster level through normal means that have other stuff there. If these spells do not show up in those the epic feats that increase your caster level, I'm going to be really disappointed. These new spells cost 2 spell points each at their base and have a 4.5 second cooldown, 3.5 for strokes shared among all 4 spells. So it looks like you can only cast 1 at a time. It's supposed to be like small, like cheap spells. That's kind of the idea there.
Yeah, it's based off of the cantrips on pen and paper.
Right.
Oh, that's a good idea. I didn't realize that it was based off cantrips.
Let's see, new wizard and sorcerer spells are now available at level 9. So these are all, there's basically a new spell that's the equivalent of Meteor Swarm for the different 4 elements. That's kind of what's going on there. And then, I'm not going to read all of it, but basically they went through the list, and essentially anything that's kind of on the same level at each tier, they standardized the damage to 1d6 plus the spell level, or plus a damage per spell level per caster level. So at level 3, for example, Fireball is 1d6 plus 3 damage per caster level, which is the same as Acid Blast and Lightning Bolt. At tier 5, Ball of Lightning and Cone of Cold are 1d6 plus 5. At tier 8, that damage gets higher, so it's now 1d6 plus 16 damage per caster level for Polar Ray. And then the level 9 ones are all a little bit different, or rather, they're a little different based on kind of what they're doing. So some of them do a little bit more damage, but they hit fewer targets, kind of a thing. But we talked a little bit about that last week. But so yeah, spell damage is getting a little simpler to understand, a little bit more, I think, is kind of what's going on there. So, anyone have any comments they want to put in about that before we talk about Threads of Fate?
I'm excited to see the visual for Iceberg. The
Yeah.
9th level gold spell where it's like conjures an iceberg that crashes on top of your foe. It just sounds like it could be really funny looking.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. I just thought it was just going to be some guy with the last name Iceberg that shows up.
So Threads of Fate. So this is the new legendary raid currency, formerly known as Legendary Souls. Bound to account, found in end chests of the 11 raids at cap. They're not passable in chests and go into your green bag in stacks of up to 10,000. So ordering from cheapest to expensive, here's what you can do with them. You can reacquire already earned raid loot to boost its power level to the appropriate values and lower its minimum level. So that's the new versions. This will wipe augments, Mythic, and Reaper from your items, but will allow already earned raid loot to be posted to the appropriate values without requiring you to rerun raids for that specific piece of gear. Hey, Linabelle, while you're looking for ideas, adding Mythic and Reaper bonuses to items, to your raid items, might be a good idea for this stuff. Number 2 is the new Filigrees. 3 is a Spark of Memory. You can add Mythic 2 or 4 to the White Plume Mountain raid level items. See, they've already, it's like halfway here, right? As well as the alternate slot variants that are earned via Schism Shards. there's also going to be exclusive cosmetics, but they're not currently visible on Lamannia. If you run each of the 11 raids at cap on Legendary Normal, you will earn 137 Threads of Fate. If you run each of the 11 raids on Legendary Elite or above, so Reaper of any skill level will earn you the Elite bonus, you'll get 204. So then she rounded those to 125 and 20. So if you are going for an item that costs 100 threads, it will take you 4/5 of a circuit on Epic Normal, or half of a circuit on Epic Elite. It should be Legendary Elite for most of these. But so she's giving us the numbers for if you do a full circuit of all 11 raids.
That's kind of a weird way to present the numbers.
It is a weird way to present the numbers. Those numbers are adjust, so you're not getting the same from each raid, right? So Legendary Hand of Droid, for example, we know is fewer than, will give you fewer legendary Threads of Fate than Strahd or Baba. Well, the reason here is they don't want us to just run Hound of Droid over and over and over and over again because it's really fast. So it's an artificial reflection of how hard the raid is versus how how long the raid is, kind of an idea. So it will cost 50 of these things to reacquire already earned raid loot, so that's not too bad. It's really low. The new filigrees will be 250. The rare versions of the new filigrees will be 500. The Spark of Memory will be 500. Adding Mythic is this. So the rare versions, you have to have the non-rare counterpart as well to upgrade. The Mythic 2 and 4, it's 1,000 for each, but you have to do both of them. So you have to do Mythic 2 before you do Mythic 4. And then the exclusive cosmetics are 5,000. She did say that one of the one that's viewable, or was viewable for the Lamannia Pass, was a purple diadem of glory that matches the purple flames of the Reaper wings and eyes currently available. The rest are currently in a very preview-unfriendly, broken state. So, 1,000 raid runes of any singular type can be converted into 100 threads of fate of the appropriate raid rune vendor list. Interesting that they did not artificially change the numbers there to account for Hanazora being faster, but they are also still planning on introducing a variety of new rewards and incentives to interact with Threads of Fate, but these are the initial rewards. The new filigrees. Let's talk about, these are kind of interesting. So they're filigrees, but they belong to two sets. So there's one that it belongs to the Treachery and Twilight's Cloak set. That's a +2 dexterity. There's Purity and Touch of Grace for 20 healing amp. Snakebite and Grandfather's Shield. Hell and Back and Embraced by Light. Celerity and Vigilance. Sucker Punch and One Against Many. Eye of the Beholder and Inevitable Grave. Nistul's Mystic Defense and Electrocution. Blood Feast and Frozen Wanderer. So they work with both sets simultaneously. So that's kind of neat.
That is neat.
I like it.
I mean,
Hopefully they'll
already the
continue
buff.
this.
Positive approval comment.
Yes. There was talk about there will be more stuff kind of added with this, but that's kind of the idea. It's a starting place, right? So they got this new tech that they can do it more than one set bonus on the filigrees now. These are also these ones are also better than most of the filigrees you could find, because usually it's like +1 to a stat. These ones are all +2. The rare version has +4 PRR, or MRR, or melee power, or 8 universal spell power. So these are a little bit better than what you normally find as well. So,
I mean, they're quite expensive to get, but
true.
They do have amazing buffs, so it's well worth the grind.
So if you wanted to get a rare version, you would have to do 3.75 circuits on Elite or 6 circuits on Normal. It's not bad.
I'm kind of just excited for the system in general because like they've mentioned in a Wednesday stream that this is just like the beginning. Like this is probably going to be utilized to use a lot of things for future raid funness, like if I heard right. So this is just the first step into this, and it's already pretty nice. And I'm a huge cosmetic hoarder, so looking.
There was talk about reducing the cost for the cosmetics, but there's kind of the idea here is that they don't want to get they want it to be something that people go by and say, "Oh, that's really cool! You did this." So it wants to be kind of that bragging rights kind of a thing, but they don't want to put stuff that's that expensive in terms of people feeling that they have to go and get it because that they don't feel like that's very fun, which I agree. So far, I think the system is looking really great. Really excited to see kind of what else they do. I think that the filigrees are I think a really good reward option. So it'll be interesting to see what else they kind of come up with for those filigrees. Let's see. Kind of talked about the spells pass already. I don't think there's anything else to kind of add. So we're talking about like the spells and the damage they do. Spells that are improved generally follow these guidelines. They are damage spells in the Wizard and Sorcerer spellbook. They do not confer extra effects. They do not have multiple projectiles that scale with caster level, like Magic Missile or Frost Lance. They are not persistent AoEs, and they are not dot spells, because that's kind of what they were looking for there. Monsters will continue casting the existing versions of the spells, so that there's not a sudden spike in enemy caster damage, which would have been kind of amusing. They gave us a FAQ for the spells pass as well. So why aren't Lesser Death Hour and Death Hour and most other negative spells included? They're going to get around to a Pale Master revision eventually. They'd like to adjust those spells with that pass. Why weren't other spells included here? Probably because they didn't meet the guidelines, or because changing it to these standards would have a net reduction in damage, like Nyack's Cold Ray. They're not setting out to up-push all damage spells game-wide. They're looking to upgrade Wizard and Sorcerer nuker spells specifically. Other classes have access to these spells. Will they get updated as well? Yes. Where does this put Wizard and Sorcerers relative to other caster nukers? It moves them up a little bit. They're still gathering data, but they believe to be significantly ahead of most other nukers now. They don't have healing outside of Master to fall back on, or a lot of other resources that other nuking classes get, but they're the mind that they should put them a little bit ahead. I don't know, my Warforged Sorcerer does in fact get self-healing from Reconstruct, but I'm not going to argue here.
What other nukers are there? I don't understand that.
That's what I was thinking.
It's a good question.
There's like two others.
I mean, favorite soul? Maybe, but
Warlock.
how many favorite soul nukers do you see running around?
It's pretty hard. I mean, druids maybe.
Yeah, not so much.
I don't feel like they have that many damage spells. Yeah.
No.
I have not ran into a nuking druid for a very long time.
They don't work great, right? Like, I don't know. All right, so going back to Eldritch Knight, here's the fact for Eldritch Knight. What's the deal with Knight's transformation? You'll probably notice that the cast range restrictions while Knight's transformation is active very similar to Epic Defensive Fighting. With the trees focused on wading into melee range for combat, this is a tree where offensive spellcasting range can afford to be close quarters. For that trade-off, they get a big boost to spellcasting and weapon combat. If you have both this and Epic Defensive Fighting toggled on the Epic levels, you do not set up for a further penalty to casting range, so they synergize pretty well. Yeah, except you have to figure out, like, what feats are you going to take to increase Epic Defensive Fighting? That's the question here. Why did you drop permanent tenters out of the tree? They evaluated the existing tree's strengths and weaknesses. It occurred to us that if we wanted the role of Eldritch Knight to be a character that excels at both spells and weapons, then tenters was counterproductive as it increased your spell cooldowns. So they did Knight's transformation to replace it. What's 5% stacking corporeality mean? It means it stacks. That's the short version. 10% melee damage. They removed a lot of this from the game when melee and range power were added, but given that you can't get this without 20 Wizard or Sorcerer levels, they felt the power scaling was worth it. Keep in mind that you can get that and the plus 30 power from the tree as well, so yeehaw. Anything that doesn't specifically say melee, assume it also works on ranged weapons. And let's see. And then he Steelstar kind of gave a couple of I think good quotes to kind of keep in mind for this tree. To reinforce the theme of casting makes your attacks better and attacking makes your spells better. That's kind of why some of that stuff synergizes. Understanding that is core to understanding how to use this tree. And to be a little blunt, if you're in tier 5 of this tree and you aren't casting one offensive spell at least once every 12 seconds, you're probably not playing this tree effectively. So that's kind of their thinking there. All right. Whew, there's the release notes. Let's cruise through some other stuff so we can talk about the good stuff today, yeah? DDO bonus days, Mimic Hunt through November 18th, still going. Sales, bigger is better. You get 25% off now through November 22nd of Colossal Ingredients bags, Colossal Augment bags, Sovereign Guild Elixirs times 25, stacks of 100 of Superior SP potions, and stacks of 100 of Gold Seal Elixir of Sovereign Healing. The weekly coupon code gets you a long-lasting Eagle's Majesty times 5 of the coupon code Majesty. Community news. Shroudapalooza is heading to Wayfinder on Saturday. This is from 309th Chronicle. So that will be today at 4 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Jess from the Truth Seeker Guilds on Arganessen has started a website for DDO fashion. So if you're a fashion nut, you can check that out. Also, there's episode 2 of the bonus D&D night. The Waterdeep Dwarves plus a drow joined journey into a seedy neighborhood in search of a friend. Let's see, the comment for the week. If you were a mimic, what dungeon would you inhabit? So everyone gets the answer.
I'd be under Nimvind's bed.
Is that a dungeon?
Look for
Yes.
yourself.
I guess that's an answer. Dungeon. Which dungeon would I want to live in? That's kind of the question, right? How about the? I was thinking, what dungeons are take place in a bar?
Tavern, bro.
Yeah. Well, that tavern's kind of messed up, right? You know, maybe the Collaborator or something. That, I don't know.
Missing Good Intentions has the bar there with Gold Scuttle.
Oh, Delirium, because then you can drink with beholders,
There
and
you
you're
go.
a mimic, which so this it would be friends. There we go. That's my answer. Delirium.
I'm trying to think of a chest area where like you have to open the chest to complete the quest, and I can just come out. And I'm like, I'm a Reaper 10 mimic, and I'm trying to. It's probably
Mystic Dragon Rider is saying the Grotto, which is the very first quest you run if you're a new player. It's the tutorial dungeon.
actually I'm gonna go with that. I like that because like there's that chest you have to loot towards the end,
Yeah.
and you're like a level 1 person. That's where you get your starter gear from. So you're gonna open this chest, and I'm gonna go like.
It's kind of mean.
Can actually mythics come out of that chest?
I doubt it.
No.
I would hope not.
What Nimvind's saying is he wants to discourage new players from playing the
I
game. That's
guess.
terrible.
Welcome to
good.
DDO. Scream at me.
The guild for the week. League of One is a new and upcoming guild on Canis servers recruiting. They play every day, normally in the evening. You can email or message Holy Spot. Fansite news. So we got a shout out for DDOCast 538. Return of Grouse has a new blog post. Brock and Darvith had Holiday Crafts. DDO Players News hit episode 200. Damsels of DDO hit episode 100. Congratulations to both of them. Cordovan had a Movember fundraising live stream. Doug Glendower also did a Movember DDO stream. Alex and Lynn did DDO Sunday. Streaming with Even had an episode. DDO PL folks had Kobold Remembering Waterworks. Technical Shoemaker cobbled a Deepwood Elven Stalker. And Tone Station had another episode of Inside the Magic Circle. They also had Steel Star on weekly Wednesday lunchtime live stream to talk about some of the stuff there. And yeah, there you go. DDOcast news, DDOcast Plat on Tuesday. We had our D&D night episode a couple weeks ago. Hopefully that should be, that was last Sunday. So that will hopefully be on the DDO YouTube page shortly, but you should be able to catch it on Twitch as well. Apologies if you're watching on Twitch, you won't get the chat because I screwed up the the streaming. I thought I put in the right stream key. I know I put in the right stream key. It didn't take effect for some reason, so it streamed to DDOcast, and then it got auto-hosted by DDO Stream, so the chat thing might be a little messed up there. So I just uploaded it to DDO Stream, probably sans chat. So, yeah, so there we go. We do have a little bit of lightning post. Someone wrote in, or talking about the casting stuff a little bit. They're going completely against the way that they would like to play Sorcerer and Wizard. Evocation is not a viable school, and the only reason anyone uses it is cheap stuff to proc Strati from. Fix the Draconic ED to be actually viable with non-casual play. It does potato damage or anything but epic normal, and yes, it has more level appropriate and gear and multiple past lives. And add a range support for casters. Casters are not a melee class; they are not monks. I mean, I guess it's nice that you can play your wizard and sorcerer as a monk now, but I hate playing a monk. What I want is low casting time, nukes to deal damage instead of tickling the enemy. Ones that I can cast without being in touch range. Elemental cleaves are nice, but they have 15 different ones, and I don't want to use any of them. Let's see, anything else out of this? You're ruining the Sorc by giving them must-use SLAs with poor cast times, and yeah, I think it kind of gives a summary of the. I don't know that I agree with very much, if any, of that. I mean, evocation is certainly a useful school. I do plenty of damage on more than epic normal with my sorcerer, who tends to kill lots of stuff pretty easily. So yeah. But I want to make sure that the opinion gets out there as well. So I don't think they're trying to make casters a melee class either. This is just an option to make it better and more viable.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely wouldn't play this, the Eldritch Knight tree if you wanted to do a nuker, I wouldn't think.
And there's no reason why you should have to.
There is no have to. Like, no one is like, oh, you're rolling a caster, play Eldritch Knight now.
Yeah, they're different goals, right?
Exactly.
I will say I do like how 5th edition does Eldritch Knight, right? It's part of the fighter tree, or fighter class. It's not part of the wizard class. So that's kind of a neat way of doing it. But I don't know. That would be really convoluted in DDO to do it that way. And I think there's always going to be a balance, right? If you want something that has a low casting time and doesn't cast a lot of spell points, it's not going to do a whole lot of damage. They have to balance things there. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, they talked about this in, I think, this Wednesday live stream, that they were trying to balance out, like, they're not trying to give you too much spell power and too much melee power, because they kind of want you to equal both into an equivalent to other DPS classes. And I think that's very smart, because that's the whole point of the flavor of the tree.
Yes. All right. So now we get to talk about the fun stuff. We're going to transition. We're going to talk about past life prioritization. So again, I'll just kind of do a big picture, and then we'll dive right in. This will be the first part of talking about past life prioritization. So this is going to be a bigger discussion than just one topical discussion. That even then I'll break into a couple parts, right? So what we're kind of talking about here is we want to help give you a roadmap for what past lives do you take in what order. Now, let's just address the elephant in the room. We can't just give you a roadmap and say, go do this, right? That doesn't work unless we know, like, we could give you a roadmap for a build, but beyond that, it's kind of hard to do that. So what we want to do is give you some thoughts and some tools so you can kind of help figure this out for yourself. Today, with this one, what we're going to be talking about is from a big picture. We're going to we're not going to get really into the details of this past life versus this past life. What we're going to try to talk about today and really focus on is there's 4 different kinds of reincarnation. Well, there's 5, but we're not going to talk about lesser reincarnation because that doesn't give you past lives. So there's 4 different types of past lives, and we want to talk about how do you manage getting the different types. What do those types do for you kind of generically? How many are there? How do we get this all to work, if that makes sense? Where should we start? So I think maybe we'll just say these are the different types, and then we'll kind of say what we like about them and what we should consider. That sound like it'll work?
I think there's definitely a point that I would like to make before we delve into that, and that is, there are over 100 past lives now, passive past lives. And if you're a little bit newer or you're a little bit, more casual, like this can be really intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the first thing I want to say is don't stress out. Don't stress about trying to get every past life by, next Tuesday, and don't let it stop you from enjoying the game. There's no finish line. There's no parade waiting for you at the end. Just enjoy, play the game while you're getting your past lives, and don't feel like you have to have 100 past lives before you can show up.
Yeah, exactly what Voodu said. I mean, past lives give you additional bonuses, but they're not a must-have. You can still play, even at end game, you can still play a fairly nice character without having completionists, etc. And yeah, but because so I feel like some players can get a bit overwhelmed by it. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like even without past lives, as long as you're not trying to do like R10 killing time, you can still enjoy the game. Like this game is an MMORPG. That means if you want to, you can group with a bunch of strangers and enjoy your time, have a good laugh with me, or whatever you want to do. It's just it's about enjoyment. This is entertainment, right?
Yeah, don't forget to have fun while you're playing the game. I think a lot of people lose sight of that, and that's so important to remember that that's why we're playing this, to have fun, not to stress out about like, oh my god, I gotta have all these past lives.
Let me just address a couple things you said. All the past lives in the world are not going to help you survive. I mean, they'll help, but that's not going to be the difference in you completing R10 killing time.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
Saying. These are all really good thoughts, right? Like, I know a couple people who have characters that have no past lives, or at least true reincarnation kind of past lives, right? They got a couple epic lives, but they're first life characters. So that's totally a viable way to play. There are, and we'll kind of talk about this, there are some, I don't want to call them critical paths, but there's some ways to kind of maximize your lives. And, if you only want to get a couple, we'll give you some ideas of where you should kind of look to start with, and that kind of stuff. I will say, in general, most of your character power is going to come from gear and action points and stuff like that. You're not going to get a ton of power from your past lives. You will get a significant amount, but this is not going to be the bulk of your character power, generally speaking. But there are some things that you probably want to think about, and you can get while you're playing, and will make your character better for less bang for the bang, right? And we'll kind of talk about how you can kind of maximize the power you're going to get by kind of choosing some different things. So, should we talk about the heroic past lives as a group? So
heroic.
There's 14 classes. You can get 3 past lives per. Each time you get a past life, you get a passive feat, which gives you a small bonus. Each one of them has an active feat that you can take. You only need 1 past life in that class to do that. And they're minimum level 3, I believe. And then you can get completionists. If you have one past life from each of the classes, you can take a feat that gives you +2 to ability scores and skills. I think something like that.
Yeah.
But you have to actually take the feat. It's not a free feat. Should we talk about? Do you want to talk about heroics just as a group, or do you want to kind of run through them all and then just go total big picture?
Yeah, let's talk about heroics.
All right.
Sounds good.
Who wants to
Yeah.
start? Tell us about heroic past lives.
I personally have like a very like I'm not really a fan. I used to be because they were the only past lives for a while. I used to be all about them, but it feels like nowadays there's very few that you would want to get, and then even then I don't think they're a make or break past life compared to, like, in my opinion, racial and epic past lives. Huge benefit for any class you want to play. But if you're a DC caster, there's a Wizard and Favorite Soul are pretty good. Generally, Barbarian is alright, but Paladin Past Life is really good. Warlock is good for everyone, but generally speaking, I'm not really a huge fan of heroic past lives anymore.
I mean, oops, sorry. After
Go ahead,
you.
buddy.
Oh, thank you. Another good class, especially for like melees, is your fighter past lives. Because each time you have a fighter past life, you have +1 to your tactical DCs, which does add up in the long run.
I see a lot of people still going for like triple heroic completionists, and or even single heroic completionists, and I would really emphasize that do not bother going complete heroic class completionist unless you fully intend to take the feat. You got to have that feat slot for that completionist. And if you can't work that in your build, don't do it, because you're not getting any special benefit for going completionist. And double or triple epic or heroic completionist doesn't give you any special benefit. It's just bragging rights. And here's the thing, because there's so many past lives available, if you spend, if you 14 times 3, what is that, 42? That's a lot of time investment, and there are some past lives that just have no meaning and no value whatsoever to certain classes. So if if you're a fighter, if you're playing a melee, you don't need caster past lives to give you bonuses to evocation or spell penetration. Or if you're playing a caster, you don't need monk and fighter past lives. So don't even bother with the triple heroic. It's a giant waste of time. There's much better places that you can spend spend your time getting past lives that are more valuable for your build. And it's also good to review the past lives in general, sort of see what's good for, if you know what your end game build is going to be, you obviously want to pick past lives that are thematically appropriate or going to benefit that. But on the other hand, if you just have no idea, if you're at a point where you're like, I don't know what my final build's going to be, then you might want to start, or if you like to play a variety as you're reincarnating, you like to play a different build every time, you might want to go with past lives that give benefit to whatever you're playing. So for example, like Paladin past lives give heal lamp, or Barbarian past lives get hit points. Those are good for everybody. Everybody can benefit from hit points and heal lamp, for example.
I just feel like certain, like, if you play melee, you don't really need to triple stack monk. That's just like what, +3 damage. If you're an evasion tune, go for your rogue past life. That's +6 evasion or reflex against traps. That's something that gives you a substantial bonus that actually will get you to the next rounded up 10 or whatever. Like if you're at 104 reflex and you want that 110, that's good. But like most of the time, why? What do you need the +3 for? Like, is it really, sometimes +3 or +30 in certain areas is not going to make and break. Your gear is going to take a majority of the progress. And so that's why I'm more of a fan of epic and racial past lives, because they give you so much more for your time.
The one thing I'll say that you probably want to kind of focus on is, we've kind of touched on, if you're using DCs, like DC is kind of a strategy that it's really just go big or go home. So get everything you can. So if you're playing a DC caster, spell penetration and DCs for the school that you're looking for, those are great.
Big time.
You're gonna want those. A fighter who's using tactics, yes, the fighter past lives are gonna be great for you. But yeah, the heroic lives are kind of the old cool, right? The bonus you can get when you're comparing to what other things you can get is probably not as big of a thing. Having said that, it's worth looking through the feats, the active feats, the ones that you have to take to see if there's something there that you want to get. The one that kind of always sticks in my head is there's kind of two that really kind of pop out, I think. One is the Wizard Past Life, because it's +1 to all DCs. And 10 free magic missiles per rest. So that's really good. There's also, if you want to play an unarmed monk, the monk Past Life feat increases your unarmed damage by 1 step. So that's really good. The rest of them are all kind of blah. But as you're thinking big picture, where do I want to start? And so, one thing we didn't really touch on is you start as a 28 or a 32 point build. If you go through one Past Life, either any of the reincarnation ones, the not epic ones, you're going to get up to a 34 point build, and the next time you get to a 36 point build. So those are really great. But take a look at the class active feats. Well, really the two that I mentioned. And if you want those, obviously you're going to need to get a Past Life in that class. And then if you're DC caster, then I think you want to kind of look here, but don't look too hard at this level, right? Let's talk about let's move into iconics, right? There are 6 iconic classes. Iconics are a little different. They start you at level 15, and you have to reincarnate at level 30. Heroic, you can take a heroic Past Life reincarnation anytime between 20 and 30. Now, we'll probably all tell you that it makes the most sense to take it at 20. So either if you're at 30, take an epic life and then reincarnate, or get there and do that, or just reincarnate at level 20. Iconic, you have to do your reincarnation level 30, so you cannot tag on an epic Past Life, but you get a heroic Past Life based on your class. Just like if you're taking the or heroic reincarnation. You also get a Past Life based on your iconic. You do not have to maintain the class of that iconic. It's just being that iconic race. It has a passive bonus and a toggle. Anything else I need to mechanic-wise that we should mention about iconics?
Well, contrary to heroics, you don't have to take any of these Past Life as a feat. They're auto-granted at level 1
Correct.
as soon as you step on the grotto. That's pretty nice. And I feel like these are there's really only specific ones that are really good. I would like to see them add more iconics so we can get an iconic completionist feat. That's really all I can say about iconics.
We should. One thing I do want to, I do know we need to mention here. So the toggle is an iconic Past Life stance. You can only have one of them active at a time. So they all have a passive bonus to them, but if you take 1 life as Shader Kai and then 1 life as Blade Forge, you can only have one of those 2 stances active at a time. So you should probably strongly consider, if you want to do one of these, pick one, get it 3 times, and that's your whatever stance you want. The one kind of variation on that is Purple Dragonite has a group action boost, so you can use that as well. But I wanted to make sure that we got that out there.
Yeah, each iconic also has passive Past Lives, which you can have. That they're up to 3 stacks, and they do work with one another. So
yes,
say if you had the Ace, Ursula, Scrooge kind of iconic Past Life stance active, you can still have your Purple Dragonite 3 PRR passive in the background still working.
Correct.
If you're not sure what to do, if you want to knock out some iconics, you're not sure where to start, I think PDK is the best starting point, because that party action boost that gives bonus to save and it's like a haste boost as well is a lot of fun. It's great. And also the passive component of PDK gives you +3 PRR per stack, up to +9 PRR, so that every no matter what build you're doing, you can benefit from 9 PRR. That's huge.
A little thing I like is that if you really are MRR starving, you can do like 3 deep gnome past lives with conjunctions with warlock and just max out your MRR past lives pretty fast.
That's a good way to do it as well. The thing about iconics, I think that it's really helpful to kind of note is you get that heroic past life at the same time. So if you are one of those people that you're going to get them all, more power to you. Or if you're only, if you just want a couple iconic lives and there's 1 or 2 heroic class ones that you're looking for, you can do these together, right? Like that's the big takeaway with iconics and heroics. So if you're only going for 3 fighter pass lives, but you want to get 3 scourge lives as well, do them at the same time, because you can get them both at the same time. Why not, right? As opposed to getting 3 fighter pass lives and then building a fighter out of it, the scourge, and you're only getting your iconic life. You don't get a heroic pass life at the same time because you already have 3 of them. So that's kind of the biggest takeaway I would say with iconic is make sure you maximize that stack. Now, and if you're going to get all of the iconics, there's 6 iconics. There's 6 of your 14 classes at the same time. So really try to maximize those. You cannot do racial with iconic. It's just you get the heroic lives with iconic. So, but that kind of helps minimize a little bit, right? So there, you can easily roll the iconics into the heroics. We'll talk about how that plays with epics a little bit in a minute, but that's kind of the biggest thing for me. And if you're starting a new character, you're going to build a brand new character. I think if you're familiar with the game, iconics are a great place to start. Partly because when you get into if you're doing epics, you'll kind of build up your karma XP without spending it. So when you get to the point where you're really looking at spending a lot of karma XP, you kind of already have it built up and banked up, so you have a lot more options with that. So, this is what we're gonna do. So we're gonna cut this section here, and we'll finish up the typecasting part next, the next segment. So I'm going to thank my guests, and then for those of you listening live, we'll just kind of roll right back into this and kind of finish out with racial and epics from a big picture. So thanks for joining us today. Thanks for listening. Voodu, anything you want to plug before we head out and close this show?
Currently working on my Northwind 2 video series, which is a sequel to a project that I did 2 years ago, where I'm on another server doing my normal druid build as a guide for newer players. And I'm showing that even on a second lifer, that I'm able to do some really awesome things. Solo low skull reapers at base normal level for maximum reaper XP. And my latest episode, I solo R1 Tempest Spine. So been having a lot of fun challenging myself. And if you're a newer player and you want to see what a tune can do without a lot of past lives, check out the series.
Nimvind, anything you want to plug here before we head out?
Yeah, lately I've been working on Voodu's nerves. If you want to catch that, you can go to Voodu Spice's live.
And Bandvp, anything you want to plug here before we head out?
I suppose my YouTube. I don't know.
Sure.
It's on the DDO fan site page. I'm gonna be doing a kind of guide to a bard build, which will be uploaded soon. I'm just currently in the process of editing it, because I'm trying to make it as form as possible to my personal build, which has had some work on. And with the new updates, I've tested on Lamannia and it should work quite nice. So if anyone's planning to do like endgame bard, it's definitely something you can have a look at.
Right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining me today. Thanks to all the contributors for DDOCast, and thanks to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast for making DDO happen, and to Cyberbears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also check out DDOCast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO, you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email me at ddocast@gmail.com. Also, if you'd like to be a part of the show, have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, leave a comment. You can email us at DDOCast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. I'm at DDOCast on Twitter. So may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather from us.